Hello, everyone, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm your host, Aaron. I'm joined by my lovely co host, Tommy. Hello,
Hello.
Tommy. And
Hi.
today we have two very special guests. We have Matt and Scott from Spectrum Celebrity Events, and they're going to tell us a little bit about what their company does.
I'll give you guys a little background of how we started Spectrum. Matt and I used to do a lot of fan events, go to a lot of fan events like Comic Cons, and we went to different soap events. And we thought it would be cool to try to do like some events of our own, especially some that would feature LGBTQ characters and actors, and also try to help benefit some charities for LGBTQ causes. So we started the company in 2018, and we had our first event in DC in 2019. It was called Daytime Pride.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We had Van Hanses, Jake Silberman from As the World Turns.
Mhm.
We had Freddie Smith from Days. We had Greg Rickart. And then we had Cameron Grimes from Young and Restless. And we had Ryan Carnes from General Hospital.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love all of those people and their characters.
It was a lot of fun. Being our first event, we didn't have a huge attendance. And like when you start a business, it's like a learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We understand.
Matt,
Has it grown through word of mouth and just social media?
Yeah, we went through mostly social media. We connected with a person that works for Washington Blade in DC,
Okay.
and he helped promote the event. And we also worked with the NBC station in DC.
Oh, cool.
And we had Freddie and Greg appear on like one of their morning shows one day.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How often do you guys have these events?
Well, Daytime Pride in 2019 was our first event.
Mhm.
We had scheduled an event in Burbank in 2020, but then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then we had to move to like a virtual format.
And you've had a lot of virtual events this year, or even still a lot coming up. You want to tell us about any of those?
Sure. We've got Lucas Adams coming up this weekend.
Mhm.
And the next weekend, we've got Zach Tinker. And let's see, October 16th, we've got Freddie Smith and Chandler Massey.
Okay.
And for the 911 Lone Star fans, we've got Ronan Rubenstein coming up on October 23rd.
Okay.
So how do you decide who you want to bring on?
We kind of do like a wish list. We talk about which actors we want to work with, and then we'll reach out to their managers and reps and make an offer. We let them know that it's for charity. So sometimes that helps get the actor to say yes.
Okay.
But I'm going to let Matt talk a little bit. He helped design the logo, and he came up with the name of the company.
Well, real quick though, before we
Okay.
you were talking about charity work, and I saw on your website where all the tickets you sold in 2021, you donated $10 to True Colors United. So, do you want to kind of share about that charity real quick and let people know where they can donate if they want to?
Sure. We collect donations on our website, spectrumcelebrityevents.com. So anyone that just wants to make a donation can go to our website, and we collect the donation there. But anyone that buys a virtual event ticket will donate $10 of that to True Colors. And also for our in-person event coming up in March in Burbank, we're doing the same thing, $10 for the charity there. True Colors United, they focus on assisting homeless LGBTQ youth. So we thought that was a very important cause. and they've been so easy to work with.
That's great.
That's awesome. It's always good to give back.
Yeah.
And now that I know that, I'm going to go right to the website and donate.
As often as you want.
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off while we were going to talk to Matt. I was just didn't want to forget that really, to me, something that was very important that I wanted to talk about.
Sure.
So Matt designed the logo.
Yeah, Matt designed a logo.
The as far as, well, I'll talk about the logo first. The as we were talking about this, again, we had gone to, I probably would say we went to more sci-fi comic events than we did soap events, just because there aren't that many businesses that are doing soap events. Or you have ones like the Day of Days that don't even bother competing with because the studio is running that. So but anyway, and we did manage to make it to one of those. But the I was thinking about, like, daytime TV, but we also wanted to go to consider, like, TV and maybe even film, if we could get enough of a following. So as I got to thinking about it, I was trying to think about what combined all those things, or what tied them together, and the thought of the Emmy came to mind, particularly for TV and for TV productions. So I got to looking at the Emmy statue, and I was noticing, I never really noticed it before, the figure is holding up in their hands actual, like, little satellites or little orbs that are in orbits.
Okay.
And then, of course, with my big appreciation for sci-fi, I started thinking about that, and then I came up with, well, what if I did something that kind of looked like a molecule or solar system or something like that, and that I could incorporate 6-7 colors into. And so that's how we came up with the logo. The before that, we were talking about the company name, and we had a few ideas, and there were a few fun ones, but we also didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into a particular style or type of event. So thinking about just like I was thinking of, like, okay, a range or whatever, and then I thought, oh, well, we talk about we use the term spectrum when people were talking about their identity, or even their orientation or things like that. So I'm like, oh, spectrum would be really great. It implies, anybody who knows what the word means, it would imply like a rainbow of colors, but at the same time, it also implies, there's so much room for individuality and diversity and such. So originally, I had suggested, I think it was Spectrum fan events, I think, and then I'm forgetting why. We went back and forth on it a few times. And then Scott landed on Spectrum Celebrity Events, which actually kind of like sells it. I was coming from a thing where we wanted to make sure that the events were being made for the attendees and not for the people that the attendees are coming to see. We want the actors to have a good time, but at the same time, we're not here to take money from people and for ourselves. We're here, we want to just, work within the community of fans and be able to connect them with some of their favorite actors. So initially I was thinking, I was stuck on the word fans, and then as we got to talking about it, we're like, well, celebrity kind of sells a little bit better. So, and I think it sounded like a little nicer too.
Have you guys done sci-fi events?
I guess our closest is we had Ben Lewis from Arrow for a virtual event.
Oh, wow.
Well, and we also had Scott Evans, and he's done a variety of work. So
you should work on getting Colton Hayes. He's a member of the LGBTQ community, and he was on this kind of primetime soap opera, The Gates. So it was a like supernatural soap kind of thing. It was it was one and done. Sadly, I'm a big fan of his.
Oh yeah, what about vampires?
What's that?
Part of it was there was vampires, different monsters. Yeah.
Yeah, we love Colton. We did try to get him to do a virtual event last fall, but he was not available at the time. So we'll have to try again in the future.
Cool.
That must be really fun to get to talk to all these celebrities. My dream is Crystal Chappelle.
This is what he talks about.
I know, I work her into every conversation, it seems. I just love her. It's my dream to have her, like, meet her or have her on the show. Can't help it.
I always joke with him, and then when you actually meet her, you're gonna be like, and have nothing to say.
The one time I won't be able to talk. Do y'all have a favorite event you've hosted, or a celebrity that you've met that's just had just fun?
I guess my biggest starstruck moment when we actually went, it was a different, not an event that we hosted, but one that we went to, where we got to meet Chris Evans.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. That was at a Comic-Con in Salt Lake City that we got to do that.
That was a very rare opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never been to an actual in-person fan event or celebrity event, so we'll definitely be keeping track on what y'all put out there so I can try to.
I haven't either. The closest I've come to an event like where I got to meet some soap stars was the 50th anniversary book signing for Days.
Mhm.
So I got to meet Deidre Hall, Lauren Koslow, Christian Alfonso, Billy Flynn, and Stephen Nichols. But it was really quick. It was like you passed your book, you just kind of said a few things. They said no phones, but I got them to film a few videos for me.
Oh, nice.
See, I'm stuck in Arkansas, and Atlanta, I think, is the closest one most of the soap stars go to, or Dallas. So it's still like it's hard to get to them sometimes.
We'll have to get you out to the Burbank event.
When COVID hit, I was like, I'm never going to make it back to California. I'm never going to get to go back to California, it seems. So, right. Well, I know y'all are excited about Beyond Salem as well. Do you want to give a little thoughts? Your opinions?
Sure. My favorite part, of course, was the Arizona storyline. I thought it was awesome. It was so funny just having Greg Rickard back causing trouble.
He's great as Leo.
Yeah, the shower scene was awesome.
He's like, there's a drama, I'm conserving water.
And it didn't even phase him. Like, no one was uncomfortable or trying to hide. It was just like, what are you doing here? You know?
And he told Sonny, it's not nothing I haven't seen before.
Oh, Leo.
What did you think of Zach Tinker, his portrayal of Sonny?
I thought he did an excellent job. Yeah, I think everybody loved him from what I hear. But yeah, he nailed it, I thought.
Yeah,
within 6 seconds, I was already a fan. I didn't need that little soap time it takes to love someone. I was like, I'm good. I like you.
It almost seemed like the storyline with the peacock and like the jewels was kind of like stolen from Marvel.
Inspired by.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember thinking that too. I'm like, oh, look, the Infinity Stones, they're just on a peacock.
Did you guys like the new opening that everybody seems, well, not everybody, but some
seems
people
like there's like
yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome that Deidre got to voice the opening. And then, of course, like the second opening was very Melrose Placey.
That's what we thought too. I was like, ooh, I'm getting my Melrose vibes.
And like the parts with like the jet ski, I was like, this feels like Baywatch.
Beyond Salem gave me everything I needed, like that I missed from the 90s into my favorite soap ever.
Were there any familiar faces that you were excited to see?
Of course, seeing Chandler and Greg come back, that was great. Lisa Rina, that was great seeing her come back.
The scene with her and Jackie, and like, who are you supposed to be? I was loving that.
With the product placement.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
How long have y'all been watching Days?
I actually started with the Will coming out storyline.
Okay. I was just curious. When I watched it, the Shane twist, that it was his twin brother, I didn't expect it whatsoever because I didn't know he had a twin brother. But when I talked to my mom, she's like, I knew it was Drew. I was like, you knew about Drew? She's like, yeah, he was there 4 or 6 months in the 80s. I was like, oh, okay. I just missed that part of my research.
Yeah, that I wasn't aware of the twin brother either.
He was on very briefly a few years ago when they were writing Joe Mascolo off. He was like there in a Stefano mask.
Oh yeah,
I couldn't remember his name though. I was like, "That's not Shane. I was like, it's the twin. It's the twin."
How did y'all feel about the Lisa Rinna and Eileen like throwback or inspiration for Housewives? You know, the little. I don't watch the Housewives, so I don't know what that's from, but
Yeah, I thought that I figured, oh, they're gonna have to do something. And then when Jackie, does the impression, I'm like, okay, that's what we're gonna see of it. And then, knowing that they were both on the same show. And so when they sit down and they start glaring at each other, and it's like, oh, here we go.
and I love when they started like, well, you've done this and you've done this. You slept with your daughter's boyfriend. They weren't together. I don't think anyone else could have did that as well as Lisa did.
Are you guys watching the current show?
Hmm?
Are you watching the current show of these?
I am. Matt sees it when he's home with me.
How are you guys feeling about the potential possession storyline?
I mean, it always keeps coming up, especially anytime someone has a chance to ask Deidre a question. And she's even said that was one of her most fun stories. And it's like when I kept seeing stuff come up on social media, I'm like, yeah, right. And then I saw it was probably Deidre that had shared it, and I'm like, oh, they're doing it. And then I got to think like, oh, well, we're coming up for Halloween, so it kind of makes sense that they're going to go with that kind of storyline soon.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they're mentioning it somehow because it seemed like there for a while we just pretend like it didn't happen. Like we pretend John wasn't a priest. We pretend she didn't get possessed. Every once in a while, like when Vivian, Kate, and Orlana was trapped in the wine cellar or something.
A few years ago.
Someone mentioned something about the the devil possession. I was like, ooh. So I like when they give little.
But because those characters were on the show at the time, but they weren't involved in that story.
Yeah.
So one of them, I think it may have been Kate, was like, "Yeah, what was up with that?" Like, and Marlena was like, I had to like think about it.
I never really got into the show at the time, but I did see a little bit of it, and I liked the style of writing that they did on Passions. Especially just because it's like, look, if we're gonna go over the top with these storylines, let's just do it. And I loved it. I mean, like I remember one episode I tuned in, and I'm sure you guys probably know the characters. I don't remember their names, but like the grandmom or something was teaching the little girl how to do magic or something.
Oh, Tabitha.
Yes,
Dora.
And I'm like, oh, I got to finish watching this.
Oh yeah, I was a big Passions fan. One, I tuned in because it was the first soap that had been created in my lifetime. Like they've ended, but no new ones came about. So I was like, ooh, I get to watch a soap from the beginning. And it could be here for 30 plus years. It didn't last 30 years. But I always tell people too when they're like, well, so that's not real. I was like, I watched Passions. I don't look for realism in my soap operas. So I'm like, bring it on.
It's funny that you mentioned Passions and that writing style. The writer of Passions is the writer that wrote The Possession.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and then he got to create Passions and write a whole show about it.
If anything crazy happened on Days, really crazy, it was the Passions writer, like Carly Buried Alive, the Salem Stalker, Jim Riley.
Yeah, I like I said, I like. Well, to give you another example, like one of my favorites, and again, I haven't watched it regularly, but years ago, I was watching Young and the Restless and Bold and Beautiful, and my favorite character of all time was Sheila. and specifically Kimberlyn playing Sheila. I think I watched up to the point where Sheila took Phyllis's face and it disappeared. But I really enjoyed that style of instead of like the traditional like relationship drama, which can be constantly done because people can relate to it. But I like some of the weirder stuff.
I like that too. I like the campy stuff.
But we always
Aaron
joke
and I
about,
have actually never seen Sheila Carter in action. We've
Not-
only read about her. And
yeah.
now that she's back, we're like, yes, we get to see her be crazy.
And we're like, be as crazy as you want to be.
There was when they were. This would have been around 2004, I think.
Mhm.
And at the time, the character of Sheila was being portrayed on Young and the Restless. And I think she crossed over back to Bold and Beautiful for like part of the story, but then she went back to YNR. But the funny thing is that again, they did something a little different, which is what I liked. Whenever the story was, when they were talking about Sheila, or they're talking about her storyline, the I don't know the right word for it. I would say bumper, but it's like, they'll put up the logo for the show and play a little bit of the theme and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But when Sheila was involved, you would hear what was supposed to be sounding like a knife being pulled out of a sheath.
Really?
And I loved it. So you would just hear the sheep.
Yeah, that's Tommy. That's our style. We love that very over the top campiness.
Mhm.
So you guys like the Kristen Mask story where she?
I do, but I'm also at a point. I'm like, there's too many masks. I'm like, I joke. I'm like, okay, she's just gonna go in her closet and have a mask for every person in Salem at this point.
Yeah, like it was cool when she came back as Nicole, and then it was like, oh my god, it's Kristen. But then when she was like Sarah and Kate, I was like, all right, that's enough with the mask. Let's move
I
on.
did have fun when Kate was pretending to be Kristen, pretending to be Kate. She did so good. Oh my god, I was like, you studied her well. Like, dang.
But I love when like Kristen pretends to be Susan or Sister Mary Moira. Like, I like that stuff.
My favorite was actually when Kristen talked Susan into swapping out of jail. And so Susan was portraying Kristen in jail. I mean, I was loving. I just thought that was hilarious.
I applaud her because I don't think I could do it. I thinking, wait, who am I supposed to be? I'm Susan pretending to be Kristen. Pretending to be, yeah, I'd probably.
So, was your guys' first exposure to the character of Kristen, was it Stacey Hydukes or did you see Eileen Davidson?
Eileen.
It was? Okay.
Yeah.
We love them both, but we're still just kind of more fond of Eileen.
When I read Stacey was up for the role, I had seen her on YNR, so I was like, oh, she's going to be great. She does crazy well. She's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Scott's been a fan of hers since Superboy.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know she was on Superboy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I read that on her Wikipedia. I was like, oh my god, she was Lana Lang.
Lang. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I have a Superboy comic I'm been holding for her to sign. So when we do the
Oh, really?
program event, yeah, she's gonna sign.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
She's really, like, if anyone could take over Eileen's spot, it had to be her because I can't see anyone else playing Kristen. You have
And
to
now I don't care if they switch them out.
they can take they can take turns.
Although Eileen does a good hip check out the window. When her and Marlena, I think it was Marlena, they were struggling, I guess, over a gun or something like that, and Eileen flies out the window, or Kristen. But
I think that may have been the last we saw of her before Stacey came back.
I think it was. No, actually, we saw Eileen when they brought Chandler back to the show.
Right, she made an appearance on it. Yeah.
yeah, he was
That
thinking
red dress. She's always in that red dress.
Her signature color. No, that's how you know she's up to no good.
Mhm.
Yeah, when it comes to her relationship with Brady, though, I like Stacey because I feel like they kind of. I remember Kristen holding Brady as a baby, so it's a little hard for me to watch Kristen and Brady together.
Oh, with Eileen, you mean? 'Cause it was,
before they sort them?
I don't have a preference because I did get into them when it was Eileen and Eric.
Okay, I took a break at that point. I guess.
I mean, it was a little much that she raped his priest brother, but whatever.
Sometimes when we talk about stuff like this, we're like, okay, if anyone's
If you were
listening,
to say this in the real world, people would be like, what are you talking about?
only soap fans get it.
Like, it's fine. He forgave her.
The viewers don't. I'm still mad at EJ and Sammy, so.
So you mentioned As the World Turns earlier. Did you guys watch it? When
I got
was coming
into it
out?
for Luke and Noah.
That's why I got into it. See, that's what all the soaps like that should have done. Just brought in a lot of gays, and the gays would have saved the soaps. I truly believe it.
I've told this story before, but I'm a dental assistant. And at the time, I was working in a larger office, and we had TVs in every room. And I used to put As the World Turns on in every room and take the remotes away so the patients couldn't change the channel. So no matter what room I was in, I was able to watch it and not like miss anything.
And I was a patient, and when they would try to take the remote to turn it off the soaps and turn it to CMT, I went, no, turn it back. I'm not about that life.
One of the things I always thought was interesting was, especially before social media, is there was this, and even in more recent years, the advertisers just insisted that the core audience were house moms or housewives that were taking care of the kids in the house while the husband was out as 9 to 5. And it's like, that really hasn't been the case for a long time. And one of the funny things, I work at, we both work at a university, but where I work, I get to see a lot of student interaction. And it used to crack me up. We used to have this, what was essentially a game room, and they had TVs on the wall. Every time I walked by, especially like 12:30 to 2, one of the soaps would be on, and I kid you not, it was always the guys that were just fixated on the stories. And I just thought it was hilarious. I'm like, but if one of their buddies walked in, they were like, oh, no, I was just, zoning out. I wasn't really playing. But it was just funny how seeing these 20, 22-year-old college guys just getting so, locked into these stories.
So what was the first soap that you guys started watching? That you
I used to watch Guiding Light some with my mom when I was growing up.
Yeah, same with me. My mom watched Guiding Light. I can tell you the only name I remember from Guiding Light is Nola. I don't even remember who it was that played her. And from there, my mom also started, years later, she started watching Young, the Restless, and Bold and Beautiful. And then I ended up dating a couple of people at different times that were into those two shows as well. So,
oh, okay.
My family schedule, I still haven't memorized because it was years of Price is Right, Young and the Restless, 12:30 News, Days of Our Lives, Another World, and then it became Passions. that was we didn't do anything during that time. We had to watch our days for sure.
See, Guiding Light came on at 10 o'clock in New York, so that was always rough for me to try and watch. I've recently gotten into it because I found YouTube playlists with full years, so I've been watching old episodes, and I'm really into it.
Yeah,
mostly for Crystal Chappelle, but
see, I'm not the only one.
I did this for you. But yeah, we grew up with Days in Another World was my family's soap. And then when Another World got canceled, Passions. My grandmother used to watch Passions out of habit because it came on when Another World used to come on. So she watched it for about 5 years.
It was one of those shows that you either liked it or you didn't. There wasn't really an in-between because you really had to just let go of what was going on in the screen. You just had to accept that it was happening. Like Julian's, sleeping with his child with Eve that I think was, I'm not sure.
Transgendered.
I think they're hermaphrodite.
That's probably what they would have said at the time.
Okay, yeah, that's what they were saying at the time. But he also had a mask or something where he would pretend to be Valerie, but then he was Vincent. I don't know how Passion's gonna. I don't know how.
I was already not watching at that point.
They got away with so much. I don't know how.
All right.
You guys,
So,
have you guys ever watched any of the international soaps?
I love Hollyoaks. That's my favorite, and Coronation Street.
I got into Eastsiders. I know there's an EastEnders, but I think it was Eastsiders. Is that the one where they live in like a little village
I think so.
and they had the gay couple?
International soaps are better about having gay representation.
Yeah.
I watched that for a little while, Eastsiders.
I used to watch Neighbors from Australia.
Oh, I tried to get into Home and Away because Amazon has like the first season or two on there. But I just couldn't get into it.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah, maybe I just didn't give it a good enough try.
And I know Coronation Street is on Hulu, right?
Mhm. And
I
I do
haven't
like
checked that
I do
one
like
out.
that. It's good. I enjoy it. I
That's,
wish
that's Corey, right? I always see people doing hashtag
Yeah.
Corey when they talk about a soap. Okay.
I wish Americans loved their soaps as much as the British do. I mean, their soaps are in prime time. Well, what would be our prime time?
Yeah.
At night.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I also think don't they take breaks? They'll take like a month break and come back.
you're asking questions I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Well,
Never mind.
I mean, I am a fan of British television in general.
I am too.
I know I've caught a few bits and pieces of Coronation Street before. But the television production is very different in the UK, and so like we refer to seasons, they refer to series, and they'll do like a 10 episode series, and that's a year's worth of programming. So that's all you get for the, they were doing it before web series were doing that and everything. But then, I think their version of the soaps, they produce, more of those. So I think that has a lot to do with their fan base as well. People just don't get into some of these other programming stories because they're very short run.
My favorite British show is Footballers' Wives. I love Tanya Turner. She just think Alexis on steroids. That's how crazy she is. If you haven't watched it, Tommy, she was just, oh my gosh, she was so wonderful.
Well, the original Queer as Folk. I'm so used to saying queers and soaps now that I get troubled when I have to say Queer as Folk.
Doesn't hurt. It's placement.
That was a British show, and that was only their seasons were like 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it had 2.
and there was only 2 series of that.
Yeah.
So if they call a series like our season, what's the overall? Is it just?
You know what? I'm not sure. I don't know if they use the word. They might use the word series in a different way. I don't know, but I'm not sure because it's like I always, like I'll see an interview like see something on Graham Norton or one of the morning shows, and right away they'll talk about like, so what was it like this series? And it's like, oh yeah, they're talking about the last 8 months.
Oh yeah, I love Graham Norton. When I was in high school, we had BBC, and that's how I watched a lot of it's probably the only kid in my high school that watched BBC America. I love their shows. Hotel Babylon. There was one called Mile High Club, I think, that was set like in an airport or airplane. It was crazy. A lot of things happen on those shows that wouldn't fly in America.
Oh yeah.
But that's why I loved it.
So, what are you guys watching in prime time or on streaming that you're enjoying at the moment?
I'm assuming 911 because you got one of your events is coming up with.
Pretty much most. If Greg Berlanti's name is on it, we've watched it.
Oh, really?
So that started with Arrow, and then Flash, and then Legends, and then Supergirl, and now we have Batwoman, and who am I missing?
What about Riverdale?
Stargirl?
Yeah, we did do Stargirl. Scott has been watching Riverdale.
What about
Again,
Sabrina?
kind of like similar with Days. I'll catch it as I'm walking through the room, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, what are they doing? So, but yeah, I feel like I missed one. Oh, and there was Black Lightning that we got into. I was kind of sad to see that series go.
Did y'all watch Sabrina as well? That was.
I tried to get into it, and I liked the take that they were doing with it, but I just couldn't get into it. And of course, I didn't make it to the ants being brought in, where they brought in Caroline Ray.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the other actress's name.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. At some point, I'll go back to make sure I got it. I have to say, I was disappointed that we didn't. I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy that did Salem. I was like, find a way to at least get that guy's voice into the new, because I honestly was a Salem stan. I loved the show for that character. I didn't care that it was a horrible puppet. I just cracked up at every line he ever said. So
I'm with you. Salem was he had the best lines of the whole show.
So, Aaron, do you watch Riverdale?
I'm on season 2. I was watching Hardcore, but then I got off track and missed some, so I haven't got back. Tommy has me a lot of assignments I have to watch for the podcast, so I always throw you under the bus.
I used to watch Riverdale.
I do.
Mid-season 4.
And she tells me about things going on. I'm like, I feel like I should be watching it because it's crazy, which is right up my alley.
Yeah, it gets more bizarre as you go along.
I loved the first season. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah, the first season was really good.
Yeah,
I like the second season too. Season 3, I was kind of like, and then I don't know. I stopped watching, I think, because Luke Perry passed away, and it was just like a sad. So
I tuned in for that episode just because it was his goodbye episode, and then Shannon Doherty was there too, and I heart Shannon Doherty.
That was probably the last episode I watched.
Yeah, me too.
Because it made me sad.
we had Casey Cott for a virtual event last year.
I
Oh,
saw
wow.
that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's he like?
He's very cool.
I mean, I know you're not gonna say, he shows off. Yeah.
No, he's very cool. When we had his virtual event, he had to film till like 4 a.m. So
oh, wow.
Oh wow.
yeah, so it was a little tough on him, but he was crashing like right after the event, but we had a good time.
yeah, and then plus 2, there's the time difference.
Yeah,
he would have been
he's in Vancouver,
and we're in Virginia.
Yeah,
I did tune in when he did a very funny storyline. Was he a sex worker? I don't know. He was getting tickled.
yes,
A lot like that. Like there was he was just, men were paying him to do these.
Yeah,
That was
happened
actually
after I
Scott's
stopped
question for him.
yeah. I asked him about that.
Because I know like the Riverdale cats, sometimes when they talk in interviews, they're like, yeah, we know we're on the craziest show ever. But there's no getting by it.
Well, when they would do something, I was just like, what? I'd be like, it's a comic book. It's a comic book. It's a comic book.
Always
You have to
chuck and be
suspend
like,
reality and just be in their world.
if Tommy and I talk about, I'm like, what? You don't remember running a speakeasy when we were in high school?
Yeah.
Taking down our father.
I was like, oh yeah, I did that after I watched my friend dance on a bar to get initiated into a band while her mother watched. Yeah, all the time. Good times.
We one of the shows that like we'll watch before bedtime. A lot of times it'll be Friends, just because it's always on. But lately we've been watching episodes of The Munsters, and
oh really?
for as cheesy as that writing could have been, and also, I mean, you clearly see things. It's like, yeah, that would not fly on air today. But like, there was an episode we were just watching, and they were doing the back and forth, like where okay, you see the Munsters, the family standing, and then you go back to the other side of the room where other people are standing. And there was a cut where Marilyn's hair looked like someone just like whapped her. And it was like her hair was all messed up. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I bet that was an editing oops, because they film out of sequence stuff. No, there was never an explanation for it. It's like 2 shots, her hair's messed up, 2 shots, it's perfect. And it's like, okay, whatever.
Still good TV though.
That's the kind of stuff that I'll get hung up on. I'll get hung up on some of the technical things, like that piece of paper wasn't there 2 seconds ago when they were just standing there. But I don't have problems like, oh yeah, sure, people get superpowers all the time. But when it's like prop placement or lighting, or my big pet peeve is technology, because I'm an IT manager. So I forget what was it we were watching, Scott, and I said that actually made sense. I forget what show it was. It might have been Days, but I don't think it was. I think it was one of the primetime shows. But
I remember.
I'll get really hung up when they do the word salad. And it's like, if all the words were involved in the same thing, I'll let it slide. But they start, like, there was a famous infamous NCIS episode where they were talking about, they were trying to trace somebody. And they were throwing words out there like, we'll be able to get his IP from, what was the program? Like, they were talking about a program that had nothing to do with networking. And it was just, I'm crawling when I see stuff like that. But again, at the same time, it's like, yeah, sure, that person can transform into a monster when they get upset.
Yeah. No.
They're like, it sounds good. It sounds technological. Nobody will know.
Yeah. I'm sure, doctors go crazy when they see like people constantly jabbing needles into somebody for something. And it's like, well, certain things you got to do a certain way. You can't just poke somebody with something. So I'm sure that kind of stuff drives them crazy too.
When I see stuff like that, I'm like, this feels like an HR issue.
But yeah, I'm the same way. I really, I try to enjoy television. But the older show, like I was watching Will and Grace earlier, and you could see the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, no. I mean, I'm sure it was probably just the way when they put it on Hulu and that it just.
A lot of times it's the editing that they do to fit a different format, and sometimes that stuff gets stuck in. But yeah, like especially for like Star Trek, it's like 1968, 1969, it was a new thing, new format, new writing. So that was fine. And it only ran for 3 seasons, But like even some recent stuff, it's like, I'll go back and watch it. It's like, I've seen this episode 50 times and I never noticed that microphone in the top right of the frame.
Yep. Well, like with Buffy, when they remastered it in HD for, I think, Netflix, apparently there was boom mics everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, let's just leave it alone so I don't see that.
Yeah.
It takes me out of the moment.
I think Hulu has the originals. They don't have the remastered.
On Buffy, I loved that show, and I didn't appreciate what they were doing with it at the time. Since then, I'm like, people didn't understand how awesome the writing and the acting was in that show. Mm-hmm. They just didn't. It's like, oh, it's another vampire monster show. I don't care. Mm-hmm. What bothers me though is that every time they re-air. Oh, hang on. Hang on. You'll know what I'm talking about as soon as I say the Once More with Feeling.
The musical.
It's not the same as what originally aired.
Yeah.
It's slightly different. And it used
Really?
it used to bug me. Plus, that was an early, I'm not going to say it was the first, but it was an early production where a show basically did a musical.
They even filmed it in widescreen, I think, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they probably did. Because even like I remember when Moulin Rouge came out, and I had heard about it. It's like it's like turn of the century, did it all stuff, and they start singing. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I love musicals. I just wasn't expecting it for the format, and then we started seeing it a little more and more down the road. But I think Buffy was one of the first TV shows that just busted out into song.
I remember that because I remember after Buffy, next thing you know, like they're just
every show was having
every show.
Episode, yeah.
Grey's Anatomy I know Grey's Anatomy was a little bit later, but Grey's had a musical episode. Did Desperate Housewives have a musical episode?
I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe I'm
God
wrong.
knows that one better than I do.
Maybe I'm just thinking maybe they talked about it or something. I know Seventh Heaven had a musical episode, which
How
was
many has
cool.
Riverdale had now?
Oh,
They
Riverdale's
do a
I
play
like.
every year, right?
he has like one every season.
Yeah.
I let Riverdale gets the pass there because they did Heathers, and I've always wanted to see that musical, so they get a pass with that one.
I remember
I think
Scott was showing me the Hedwig one, and he's showing me the episode. I'm like, okay, so in the movie and in the production, the musical production, I'm explaining like where all this stuff's coming from, because I got to see the movie. I haven't gotten to see a production of it on stage, but
I saw the stage production in the city. I've never seen the movie.
yeah, it was really interesting to see how much they stuck to some of the elements from the originals.
And Kevin got to kiss Archie.
Yeah.
Going back to the Buffy one, though, I think when it originally aired, it was an extended episode. I think it went past the hour mark, so maybe that's why it's different every time. Because
Yeah, because I think people got mad because their TiVos missed it because no one let them know that it was going to be extended.
Might even been using what was that before TiVo? Was it TV Plus with the codes in the VCR?
That's a
I
throwback.
didn't know there was anything before TiVo.
Oh yeah.
I didn't either.
I couldn't do it though because my VCR had a corded remote and it wasn't that fancy. So
Wasn't that
even when I had a VCR, I always made sure I set it 5 minutes after, just in case it ran over or whatever.
The good old days. We've been co-hosts too long.
Where can
Go ahead.
So with the virtual fan events, how does that work? Is there like a chat where the fans could ask questions?
Yeah, most of them are just kind of like Q&A events. So we have Tony Moore from Dish and Days hosting, and each fan will get to ask the actor one question.
Okay.
And we usually have about anywhere from 10 to 15 attendees.
Okay.
But some of the larger events, we'll do it in like a webinar format. So we have like a VIP ticket. So those people appear on screen to ask the actor a question, while the general admission just gets to watch the event.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
That's cool. I'm glad y'all are doing things like that because it just really COVID, man.
yeah.
At least things like that, we still get to kind of have a sense of fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that we see a lot, especially when we were promoting the first the Daytime Pride event back in 2019, we were just like once a week, like, oh, when are you going to come to my town?
Mhm.
And it's like, well, we don't have that kind of money. But if you have, a few $1,000s, we'll hook you up with the contacts, and maybe you can have your event.
Always joke with people. We have a budget of $0.
Yeah. So, but like one of the reasons why the reason why we did DC was because, well, there was a couple of reasons, but one of the big reasons was because we were thinking about to get people to attend. So Dulles, Reagan airports were have connections everywhere. So we figured, that'd be good. The drawback was then having to travel the actors, and it was like, who did we had somebody that had to leave early because their filming production changed. Was that Cameron?
Yeah, she had to leave a day early.
Yeah. So stuff like that can happen when they're opposite side of the country from where they normally are filming. Whereas with the Burbank event, they could have Ubered or driven themselves to the event. It would have been a lot more flexible with their schedule, rather than having to plan out leaving home for X number of days and such. So,
then with the Burbank event, because we don't have to pay actors travel, we're able to bring more actors in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Do you-
All right, well, where
Oh.
can people find you on social media and the internet?
Spectrum Celeb on all social media. And the web address is spectrumcelebrityevents.com.
I am curious, will you continue to do these virtual events even after things kind of, I'm hoping that's kind of part of the new normal is we'll still have these virtual events because there's a lot of people that would love to attend some of the stuff that just a plane ticket to Burbank may not be in their budget, but they could still afford a ticket to the show.
Yeah, I think we'll continue after things open up all the way. One thing that we found with the virtual events, we're getting a lot of international attendees.
Oh, you're going international.
We had a young woman attend our event with Billy Flynn, and she woke up, I think, at 2 a.m. her time because she was in Australia. She got herself ready for the event. We had the event, lasted about an hour, and then she went to work.
Oh, wow.
So she was up at like 2 or something and putting, doing her hair at 4 and, just getting ready to go into the event. And then she had to go into work for the day. So it's like, but she really wanted the opportunity to get to talk to Billy. So
Oh, wow.
Cool. You get to ask 2 questions. No, I'm just kidding.
I do want to mention one thing before we head out. Are you guys familiar with Miss Coco Peru?
Yes.
I am. I love her. My first time seeing her was in the movie Trick.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Where, yeah.
Yes.
Burns.
And then she was on Will and Grace, and big fan.
Did you know that Paul?
Bianca.
Did you know that Paul Telfer is a huge Coco fan?
No, and I'm a huge fan.
So I have a little story for that. So I saw James Lott Jr. had posted, and I think he may have copied it from someone else, but posted like, here's the celebrities I've met and one I haven't. I'm like, oh, that's a cool little thing. We've been to a lot of conventions and stuff. And I just happened to list, we had met Paul Telfer at an event I was going to get Arlington, was it, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, Arlington, Virginia. That was not that long ago. And then we had, maybe the previous year, we had gotten to see Miss Coco Peru do her stand-up or her monologue, sorry, in Richmond, Virginia. So I was listing like some of the people that we've seen from the show, from the primetime shows and stuff, and I like threw Melissa Benoist in there as the one I haven't met. Paul replied to it, or no, sorry, Coco replied to it, and she's like, I think it's hilarious that you consider me a celebrity or something along those lines. And then Paul replied to it, and he was like, I feel so honored to be in this pantheon of amazing actors, and then said something to, especially Miss Coco Peru or something like that.
Paul came to Arkansas. I only don't want to know he came. I guess he got slid through or something, or maybe his plane got landed because it had to. Because you don't just come here unless you have to. But I saw one of his stories. I was like, he's in Arkansas. What? I was like, no, don't be crazy. Don't be crazy. Human.
So because of that, Scott told the rest of that.
When we had the virtual event with Paul, we asked Miss Coco to join us. So she was the second person to ask him a question.
Really?
Yes. And he was quite surprised.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and we have the clip on YouTube if you want to check it out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious what she asked.
What'd she ask?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's inappropriate.
Well, we asked her because we were trying to think of something that he would know the reference to. So we asked her to ask him about abandoned shopping carts and bulk garbage.
Oh, that's so cool.
But that was an early virtual event, and we were still trying to figure out Zoom at the time. So we didn't capture it the way we would have liked to. So you don't get that first half a second, 1 second reaction from Paul. It's like as soon as he comes up on the screen, he's.
Yeah, it's been a learning process. Tommy and I, if you look at our first video to even now, we're like, whoa, we've grown so much.
Yeah.
With so little.
We're like, in a year, we should watch our first video and like comment on it.
Because we didn't have backgrounds. We didn't really
We had
have
nothing.
any. Had a cowboy hat. So
Well, thank
Well,
you so
thank
much
you
for
guys so
coming and
much for-
talking with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
we love talking to other soap fans just to kind of get their perspective. Because Tommy and I are like kind of the same thing. So we like to just mix it with other people who can bring a different opinion.
And
we're
we'll get to
so
see you guys again for this Saturday and then the following Saturday.
I will be at the Lucas one. Poor Tommy has to work. I also work for a community college, so I have my weekends off, thankfully. Tommy doesn't.
I'm off every other weekend, so I'm excited for the 25th.
And I'm excited for that one too, because I'm crushing on Zach at this point. I don't know what it is. Him and Billy Flynn. I was like, oh, is this the couple I need that I didn't know I needed?
Your best friend. Stop it.
No. I know. But an April Fool's episode, Days does that every year. That'd be the perfect time to give us that.
Yeah. All right, we could do that.
We've actually Scott and I have actually considered trying to pair up Paul with Billy, just so we could have them see who knows more about drag.
Ooh.
So
I like that. You need to do that. All right. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. We really appreciate it. We've really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.